Basically, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It looks like we have a lot of people from the States here. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Araz Nelson. I'm with Moan, and today we're talking about everything to do with lightening hair. I wanted to also introduce Maurizio, if you want to say a couple things.
Good morning everyone. Thank you for joining to this webinar. I hope that you will appreciate all the contents Araz created about the summer blondes.
Very cool, thank you. So Maurizio is on here to kind of help with moderating. So if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, you can type them into the chat box and we will have a break for to answer some of these questions, okay? So obviously, as the summer months approach and as we have all kind of getting back into the swing of things, behind the chair, more and more clients start talking about going lighter, going blonder. And I think for me, one of my favorite services is lightening hair. So especially with megix. So today we're going to cover all of the fundamental principles of lightening hair. So how to do it safely, quickly, and effectively. Lightening hair isn't just, throwing on some bleach and waiting for it to process. Okay, there's a method behind successful lightening. And today I'm excited to go over kind of everything you need to lighten hair successfully, because I think that there are some people who maybe struggle with getting a consistent lightening. And so just quickly, what we're going to cover today is everything you need to know with lightening. We will cover texture and the important role that it plays. We will discuss melanin, and you may learn some things that maybe you didn't know before about melanin and how important it is to get successful results. We will go over contributing pigment, how to work with what you have when it comes to toning and refining. We will go over what you need to lighten hair using Megix 10 and Lift 9. And lastly, I'm going to share some foiling tips with you guys and a cool technique that I created for summer lightness. Like I said, we will break for Q&A right around the middle point of this webinar presentation. But I do encourage you, if you have questions, type them in as we go and just make sure that they are, specific to whatever that topic is that you want the question answered for. So with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Let's go. Here we go. So obviously today we are talking about Megix 10 and Lift 9 Lightener. If you know about Megix, you understand that obviously Moan is a very innovative brand, very advanced technologically in the colors, in the lightener, in every product that is released. It's very ahead of its time in technology. And obviously with anything Moan comes time efficient. So I want to cover three ways you can lighten hair using Megix 10 or Lift 9. Okay, so the number one way you can lighten hair is using our Lift 9 bleaching powder. Okay, so, and I will go into a little bit more detail, but just to kind of get the basis covered, Lift 9 bleaching powder can give you up to 9 levels of lift in 50 minutes. Okay, Lift 9 bleaching powder can eliminate all melanin from the hair. It can be used on scalp, and it is a multi-use powder. So you can use it on scalp, you can use it in your foils, and you can also use it to balayage. And all of that will go into how you mix your lightener and developer to get the results that you're looking for. Okay. The second way you can use some of the products that we offer is Ultra Lift Blondes. This is another way to get blonde. With our Ultra Lift Blondes, you can get 4 to 5 levels of lift in just 20 minutes. So our Ultra Lift Blondes process in 20 minutes using double 40 developer. It's perfect for clients with medium textured hair. The thing with Ultra Lift Blondes is they cannot eliminate all melanin. So it can lighten the hair, but what can happen with Ultra Lift Blondes is results are often more on the neutral to warm side. It's rare that you can get a true ash with an ultra lift blonde. That's where you would most likely have to go into the bleaching powder. Okay, and then we can also use our permanent color. So the Megix 10 line offers 86 shades to choose from. With our permanent color, you can lighten 2 to 3 levels using 32 volume peroxide. Perfect for medium texture hair again. So medium texture hair is gonna get you the best lift, and it's less likely to block warmth on coarse hair. So if you're really trying to avoid warmth, ultra lifts or bleaching powder would be the way to go. So the next couple of slides are super important in understanding lightening and understanding how to lighten hair, okay? So the first and most important part when it comes to lightening hair is understanding that texture matters. And texture of hair is almost always more important to how the hair will lift versus the volume of the peroxide that we're going to use. Okay, so a lot of stylists just automatically assume higher volume peroxide, more lift. And that's not always the case because you have to understand the canvas that we are working on. Okay, so many stylists fail to recognize the importance of texture when it comes to lightening, and we have to first distinguish what differentiates fine versus coarse. I mean, obviously we know by the look of it, fine hair versus coarse hair, but what's really happening in relation to lift, okay? So fine hair has generally less melanin, okay? Because fine hair has a smaller diameter. So the hair itself is significantly, if you would, like skinnier. So it has less melanin, less cortex, okay? It doesn't have as much structure. So it also has less of the bonds, less of everything that you're working with. Fine hair just has less of it, okay? Fine hair requires less processing time when it comes to bleaching. With fine hair, you can get higher levels of lift with lower developers. So you don't have to put a 21 volume or a 32 volume on finer hair. And finer hair is also easier to damage, okay? So when it comes to coarse hair, you have to understand the diameter is larger. So you have more melanin, more cortical fibers. With coarse hair, you might need a longer processing time. This is with lightening. And it may require higher volumes of developer. The thing with coarse hair is you have to understand it will always look brassier than fine hair because again, there's more melanin in coarse hair. So you're having to do a little bit more work in lightening, but it's still going to look brassier than fine hair. So I like to compare, when it comes to texture, I compare it to fabric, okay? So fine hair would be something like silk or cashmere, okay? Medium hair would be something like cotton, and coarse hair is gonna be something more along the lines of denim. So when it comes to how we're working with these textures, if we're, for example, for silk, do you wash silk? Are you abrasive with silk? Are you rough with silk? Are you more delicate? Are you more gentle? Versus denim, you know, you can wash it, you can play with it, it's pliable, it can take a little bit more of a beating. So when we're going to lighten hair, it's fundamentally important to understand what texture are we working with, okay? So if it's fine, it's not going to be able to handle a 32 volume, for example, versus if it's coarse, you know, the opposite is true. It can take a little bit of a beating. So for example, let's take a girl with fine hair client and a girl with coarse hair, okay? If you use the same product, same developer, same color, same formula, 10 times out of 10, the fine hair will move faster in any chemical service. So it's important to always just be mindful to be more gentle on the finer hair, and you can be a little bit more rough with the coarser hair, okay? So we have to always consider texture when determining if and what is possible with the hair. And this is something that I see a lot of people miss, and which is why I wanted to cover it today, okay? The second thing I want to talk about is understanding melanin. Now, once I understood melanin and the role that it plays in hair and what differentiates it, it changed my game when it comes to lightening and highlighting and bleaching hair. Okay, so very, very, very incredibly important to know the difference. Okay, we visited this in beauty school. Maybe some of you haven't even considered this since beauty school, but it's one of the most fundamental parts in determining what you can do to the hair. Okay, so we have 3 different types of melanin in our hair. Okay, we have a eumelanin, we have pheomelanin, we have trichosiderine. Okay, eumelanin is responsible for the darker pigments in hair. So it's black or brown. Eumelanin is very diffused. It's widely dispersed into the hair, and it's often super easy to lighten out of the hair. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example in a second. So eumelanin comes out of the hair easier. They're larger molecules. They're easier to break up. Okay, pheomelanin is our lighter melanin. Okay, it's the reddish yellow color. So pheomelanin is very, very small. Okay, it's tightly compact, and it actually goes deeper into the cortical fibers of the hair, which make it very difficult to lighten. Okay, it's almost like if you were to compare the two, eumelanin would be like river rocks and pheomelanin would be like sand. So it's a lot easier to pick out the river rocks than it is to pick out the sand individually. I hope this makes sense. And then we have trichosiderine, which is responsible for more of our redhead clients. It's essentially like pheomelanin with a little bit more iron. Very, very, very difficult to lighten. So if you have any redhead clients or ginger clients, they have trichosiderine. Good luck trying to get them blonde. Okay. So I want to focus a little bit on pheomelanin and what makes it a little bit unique and what's a little bit frustrating about pheomelanin. So during the bleaching process, you guys, and a lot of people either don't know this or have forgotten it, but what happens is the peroxide and the alkalinity start diffusing holes in through these melanin, this melanin. And what happens is hair during the bleaching process is very, very swollen. So it's up to 20% swollen. And we break apart this melanin, right? And for example, this pheomelanin. When the swelling comes back and the hair gets back to a normal, happy pH, the pheomelanin has a tendency to reconnect. So I'll give you an example. Say you have 2 clients, client 1 and client 2. Both are a level 7, and this is a real life experience. And if you're a stylist, I know you've experienced this, okay? So you have 2 clients, both are level 7, both want to be blonde, okay? So client number 1, you foil her with your Lift 9 21 volume, you time it about 30 minutes. She is this most beautiful buttery blonde. Okay, and I know you guys have had this experience where you open the foil and it's like, oh my God, the hair gods are on my side today. Like, she doesn't need a toner. It's beautiful. Okay, so you rinse her and send her on her way. Now, client 2, you do the same thing. Okay, you're going to lighten, foil, lighten her with 21 volume, foil her. You check her in 20 minutes, and she's still a little bit gold. Okay, so you go take a break. You come back and you pop, look into the foil, and she's still a little bit gold. You give it another 10 minutes, and finally she's like past that gold where you can work with it, you know, and you take her and you tone her. And, you know, a week later, you see her and it's brassy again. So if you've ever had this experience, because I have, and it's extremely frustrating, just know that it's pheomelanin. That is what pheomelanin does. It has a tendency to always reconnect and will always tend to look more brassy, and it's very incredibly frustrating. So what's the difference between those 2 clients is their melanin content, right? So even though they're both a level 7, client 1 had higher eumelanin, client 2 had higher pheomelanin. And when you can learn to distinguish before you put the bleach on a client's hair, if they have higher eumelanin or higher pheomelanin, your lightening results are going to be more successful. And I want to share with you a few ways to determine where their ratios are and how far you can push their hair when it comes to lightening. So how do you spot the difference between a high eumelanin or high pheomelanin client? So the first way is you're going to actually look at their hair, and not just look at the level, not just look at the texture. You're going to look at the color, and this is relevant to brunettes all the way to blondes. Okay, when you look at somebody's hair and their color looks chalky, their color looks kind of flat and muted, like a chalky brown or a mousy dishwater blonde. Okay, looks like they have dry shampoo in their hair. That's an indication that that client has a higher eumelanin ratio, which means most likely they will be lifting easier, less brassy. They're going to be easier to work with. Okay, so when you look at a client's hair and it is shiny, very, very reflective, when you look at it up close, you can almost see that there's some gold or warmth to it. That's an indication that they have high pheomelanin, which means that that is going to be harder to lift and harder to maintain at a blonde because the pheomelanin will reconnect and start looking brassy again. Okay, so number one way, look at their hair. Flat, chalky, muted, you know that's going to be an easy client to lift. Reflective, shiny, warm, going to be a little bit harder to lift. Okay, the next thing you want to do is look at your client's eyes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I went to beauty school, I was taught to look at people's eyes, but I never knew why. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just did it, but I didn't know why. So I'm going to tell you what you're looking for, okay? The first thing you want to look for when you look at somebody's eyes is, do they have a dark ring? So you can see on the middle, the one where my cursor is at, she's got a very, very dark ring. So if there's a dark ring around their eyes, you guys, that's an indication that the client has a lot of melanin in their body. So it's not necessarily a eumelanin, pheomelanin situation. It's just they have more melanin, which means their undertone is going to be a little bit brighter. They're going to be a little bit warmer because they just have more melanin in their hair. Okay, so you're going to look for the dark ring, and then you are going to look for gold flecks. So this bottom picture here, even though she has blue eyes and she doesn't have too dark of a ring, she's got gold flecks. Okay, green eyes, lots of gold in here. Okay, when you see gold flecks in their eyes, that is an indication that they have a lot of pheomelanin. And I always say, if there's gold in their eyes, there's gold in their hair. So you're looking at their eyes, you see that they have a dark ring. You see that they have gold flecks and they want to be platinum. Is it going to happen? Is it possible? Yes. Is it going to take a lot of work to maintain it? Also, yes. So it's important, you guys, to not just slap bleach on and cross your fingers and hope that, you know, you get that lift that you're wanting. Prepare yourself. Look at the hair, look at the eyes, know what you're getting yourself into. So that way, nothing goes sideways, right? You already know, okay, she's got a lot of warmth. I'm going to have to counteract that. You already know she's got high pheomelanin. So maybe temper her expectations on what's possible, because guaranteed the client who has the dark ring and the gold flecks has been to every salon wanting to be ash, right? Wanting to be this platinum ash blonde. And what you can do different now is educate that client, right? Let them know why it's possible but difficult to get them there. And that's where you can stand out different and potentially have a loyal client because you educated them, you know? Another thing to keep in mind is the color of their eyes. So when we're looking at blue eyes, okay, when a client has blue eyes like this picture up here, okay, no gold, no dark ring, she has a small amount of eumelanin in the back of the iris, okay? Sometimes around the iris, you'll see some eumelanin. So this client is going to be the easiest to lighten, and get to a pale blonde, no problem, okay? So if they have blue eyes and no gold flecks, you're in the clear. If they have, let's talk about green eyes and what makes green eyes different. So green eyes are very similar to blue eyes, but there's a little bit more eumelanin found in the back of the iris. But green eyes also have something called lipochrome, which is a yellow pigment found in pheomelanin. So this is a little bit sciencey, but just to kind of understand what's going on with melanin in their eyes, it's going to happen in their hair too. So in order to get the green eyes, essentially you're starting with a blue eye and there's an extra pigment of lipochrome, which is yellow. What happens when you mix blue and yellow? You get a green eye, okay? So if they have green eyes, they have higher pheomelanin, may be harder to lift their hair, okay? I hope this is helpful. When I learned all this, it blew my mind. And when I started applying it and understanding it, it really did change the game for Lightning for me, okay? So let's move on to brown eyes. And in this category is like hazel and honey and all that, but let's just lump it up as one category being brown eyes. So brown eyes have a large amount of eumelanin, okay, a large amount in the front and in the back of the iris. But here's what you gotta know, you guys. The darker the brown of the eyes, the harder the hair it is to lift the hair. Okay, because what's happening in their eyes is happening in their hair. So if they have like super dark, almost black eyes, that's going to be very, very difficult to get to a light or pale blonde. Okay, and the darker the brown, the larger the pigment in the hair. So it's just going to be a lot more difficult when you have a client with dark brown eyes. It's going to be a little bit more difficult if they have dark brown with gold flecks and a dark ring. Okay, so this is all about you knowing what you're getting yourself into, tempering expectations with clients, and ultimately getting the best results. Okay, so knowing all of this, what's great and what I love about Lift 9, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit, is Lift 9 has the technology behind it is just unreal, in that even if you have a client with that dark eyes, dark ring, gold flecks, you're still able to get them to that paler blonde, those less warm undertones. So it's very, very exciting what's possible. But I want to set you up for success so that you can educate yourself and you can educate your client on what's really going on when we're lifting and lightening hair, okay? So we are also going to cover contributing pigment. And this chart might look a little bit different than maybe what you're used to seeing, okay? You know, we think and we know that the red tones, okay, start showing right around a level 3. So one thing you have to know is that contributing pigment undertone, it doesn't exist, okay? It is created by you, by the stylist, putting an alkaline product on the hair. We are now creating this undertone, okay? Essentially, remember when we talked about melanin and we're degrading the melanin and poking holes through it, that's creating more light to pass through the hair, ultimately making the hair appear a little bit lighter, okay? So the more we degrade, the lighter it looks. So we'll go through this chart of, you know, from red violet to red, and as you can see on the right, starting at a level 1, you're going through 10 degrees of lightness. So we're going through, you know, level 3 and gold and orange and gold orange and yellow, and ultimately, you know, we get to pale yellow, and then sometimes you get to white, which ends up on the floor. So you don't want to get to white. You want to stay at pale yellow. And at that point, when you're at pale yellow, the melanin is now degraded fully, and you're seeing the protein and the keratin of the hair. So understanding that you're creating contributing pigment, okay, and knowing that within these boxes here, okay, there are different levels. So just because you are at a level, say for example, 8 yellow-orange undertone, On certain people, for example, coarse hair, that yellow orange is going to be a little bit more pronounced than somebody with fine hair. So just know that a level 8 is not just a level 8, that there are variations within that level 8 depending on the canvas that you're working on. So remaining contributing pigment is so important, and obviously I'm sure you guys know this, when it comes to lightening and how to formulate. So there's a couple ways we can formulate for our toning or refining, okay? You can either enhance this undertone that you have created, and you can neutralize it. And a lot of us have been taught how to color correct and how to neutralize. It's coloring 101, basic fundamental principles, right? So if the hair is yellow, you work opposite the wheel, and we know that violet will then kind of naturalize or refine the yellow. I think what a lot of us don't focus on and aren't really utilizing is how to enhance this undertone that we've just created. So that's called color harmony, right? You're working around the wheel. So for example, say you have a client who is a level 6 red, and she wants to be brighter. Okay, what you can do is you can harmonize, and essentially you would work around the wheel. So you have red, and then you have red orange. So you could add orange to your level 6 red, and she will look brighter. And say she wants to be deeper, you can add a little bit of violet, working around the wheel to create and harmonize colors to enhance what you're working with the undertone. You don't always want to neutralize it. Sometimes we want to enhance what we're working with. So I encourage you to play with the colors and play with understanding how to enhance different colors. If you want your coppers to be brighter, add gold. You don't always have to add more copper. You can add gold and harmonize. And so, like I said, I'd encourage you to play and understand how to enhance, and also understanding how to neutralize or naturalize, working opposite on the color wheel. So with that being said, I know that was kind of a lot of information. I'm not sure if we have any questions. If you guys have any questions, absolutely feel free. Now would be the time to answer them.
Okay, so we have so one question is if this webinar will be recorded. Yes, it will be recorded and provided to everyone here. Another question is, will the 21 of the 12 volume developer not lift 9 levels when using Cloud 9?
Okay, repeat that one more time.
Will the 21 or the 12 volumes developer not lift 9 levels when using Cloud 9?
I'm assuming they're saying when you're using Lift 9, right? I'm trying to see the question. I can't find it.
It's in the Q&A in the button.
Okay, either way. So will the 12 or 21 volume give you 9 levels of lift? The answer to that is yes, but you have to be mindful, okay? Be mindful of, remember we covered the texture. So is it fine hair? If it's fine hair, you're gonna get that lift probably a lot quicker than if it was coarse hair. So on fine hair, 12 volume can get you there. On coarse hair, you may need 21 or 32 volume. You may need to reapply, okay? You may need to remix your lightener. So a little tip on when you're foiling, trying to get maximum lift, I mix 1 or 2 scoops of bleach at a time. So even if I'm working on long, thick hair, I remix every 15 to 20 minutes. And the reason I do that is it keeps my bleach fresh and it keeps my bleach strong. So the longer your lightener is sitting in the bowl, the more the power will kind of flatten out, right? Because the developer gives off the oxygen. So you're losing power. So if you want to get that 9 levels of lift, right, use fresh lightener, take small sections, saturate heavily. But yes, I've done that many times with 12 volume and 21 volume. I'm not a fan of using a higher volume peroxides because for me, integrity of the hair is more important. And I also like to get a clean lift. So what can happen sometimes, just going off on a tangent, what can happen sometimes is when you use a higher volume with your bleach, okay? In the bleaching process, the power is in the powder, okay? All the developer does is accelerate the timing, okay? So we have Lift 9, which is incredibly powerful, but it's not aggressive. When you use 40 volume, you're gonna get to your destination quicker. However, when you get to your destination quicker, it's not going to be as even because that 40 volume is working erratically, trying to break up melanin and trying to get that hair lighter, that you're not going to get as clean of a lift. Okay, there's people who completely disagree with that, and that's totally okay because it's personal preference. But I have gotten 9 levels of lift with 12 volume using a fresh lightener, reapplying, saturating heavy, and taking fine sections and being patient. So it is possible.
Okay, so do you have an easy way to remember when to choose 40 volt and when not to choose it?
I say just don't use it ever unless you're balayaging.
Okay.
And this is just, again, you guys, I want to say it's 100% personal preference. In understanding what happens to the hair with 40 volume, over time, you are really degrading that hair fiber. And so the only time I would use 40 volume is when I do an open air balayage. Okay, because again, the 40 volume is going to help with speed. Okay, and when I'm doing an open air balayage, I need the lifting to happen quickly because it's open air. That bleach is going to dry out, and once that bleach is dry, it's not working. So I will do the last bits of my balayage with 40 volume. Other than that, I typically recommend 21 volume on regular hair, 12 volume on fine hair, maybe 32 volume on coarse hair. But if you've used Lift 9, you know it is strong and it works fast. So typically don't want to use 40 volume.
So then they are asking where they can see the recorded webinar. So when the webinar will be finished, we are going to upload it on YouTube and send to you the link to watch it again. Okay.
Very cool.
So we do not have any question more.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we will move on. I know that was a lot of information. I don't know if any of you guys are feeling overwhelmed or maybe if something didn't click. I'm here to answer all the questions. So we will also do another Q&A at the end, but we'll just keep it moving. So how do we get 20-minute blondes? Fortunately for you and me, Moan is incredibly advanced with technology. So when you are using our high lift blondes, okay, you can get your 4 or 5 levels of lift in just 20 minutes. So again, you have to be mindful, who is a good candidate, okay? Hair color, bleaching, lightening is not a one-size-fits-all situation, okay? So ideal candidate for a high lift, if you want to get these results, okay, they're going to be a natural level 6 and up, preferably fine to medium textured hair, okay? The ultra lift blondes are not designed for gray coverage. So just a little scenario, if you say, for example, put the 102 and somebody has some white hair, the undertone of 102 is violet. What could happen to the white hair is it can turn violet. So these are designed for lift, maximum lift, and minimal deposit, okay? The amount of pigment that's in there for depositing is really just to refine the undertone that you're going to be exposing, okay? It's not actually toning, it's refining, okay? The client wants a neutral to warm result, okay? If they're wanting ashy white hair, you can use the Ultra Lift Blondes to get them there if they are a level 8 and above. If their hair is fine. Remember we talked about earlier, if a client has blue eyes, no dark ring, no gold flecks, and they're a level 8, yeah, you can get them platinum, no problem, okay? But ideally, you want them to be a level 6 and up, fine to medium texture, and we're gonna look at their hair, right? We're gonna look, do they have high eumelanin or high pheomelanin? Okay, we're gonna look at their eyes, do they have a dark ring? Because if they do, you know you're gonna experience more warmth. Do they have the gold flecks? So taking all of this into consideration when we're going to formulate. And so when you have the ideal client for the 20-minute blondes, it is mind-blowing what can happen in 20 minutes and with no damage. So typically our Ultra Lift Blondes, your mixing ratio is going to be 2 to 1, meaning 1 part of color, 2 parts of 40 volume. People say double 40. It's all the same thing. So 2 parts of 40 volume to 1 part of color. You will start where the hair is the darkest. So it's typically going to be on the back of their head where their hair is darkest. You start there. You will apply the whole head, set your timer for 20 minutes, and then wash their hair and just be completely amazed at what's possible in just 20 minutes. So this is great, like I said, for the ideal client, but especially this whole world that we're in, you guys, post-COVID, with people and their timing, and you know, people don't have the hours and hours and hours to spend, and I think stylists don't have the hours and hours and hours to spend either. So this is a great option. And I think we're releasing a video this week of just demonstrating this on a client I did on one of my clients, you know, in 20 minutes, and she was the most beautiful blonde. So 20-minute blondes possible with our Ultra Lift Blondes. If you decide to use Megix Lift 9, excuse me. So say they want maximum lift, say you want all of the melanin to be degraded and you want to be able to get pale blonde, then you're going to use Megix Lift 9, okay? So Lift 9 can give you 9 levels of lift in 50 minutes, again, depending on the hair. So if they have coarse black hair, probably not going to happen in 50 minutes. But if they have medium brown hair and medium texture, definitely possible in 50 minutes. So Lift 9 is incredible and it works quick, okay? What you have to know about Lift 9 is there's what they call pigment dissolvance technology. Now you guys will see the chart on the left is the same chart that we use to kind of demonstrate this underlying pigment, right? Or remaining pigment. So we start from a black and we start going into red, violet, red, gold, orange, yellow, all that stuff, all the way till pale yellow. What Lift 9 does is there's an ingredient in the powder that basically it's like an aquamarine. So the powder is a blue powder, but it's not blue just cosmetically. It actually refines the warmth as you're lifting. So I'll be completely honest, when I first tried it, I'm typically not a huge fan of blue or violet lighteners because if you're a stylist, you have experienced it. Okay? Was that something, Maurizio?
No, nothing.
Okay, sorry, I thought I heard something. So if you're a stylist, you've experienced this, right? You will put the blue lightener on the foil, right? And she's processed and you pop it open and she looks like she's at a level 9 and it looks beautiful. And then you rinse the hair. And you guys know where I'm going with this. Canary yellow, right? It's not lifted enough. So typically blue lighteners will do that. So what's phenomenal and mind-blowing is that the Lift 9 is a blue lightener, but when I open the foil and it looks like she's at a level 9, she's actually at a level 9. The powder does refine the warmth, so you don't have that surprise of when you wash their hair and it's like, not ready yet, okay? So the pigment dissolvance technology helps in lifting cooler. Now, complete and honest, like, disclaimer, all hair lifts warm, regardless. Even if they have blue eyes, it will still be warm, okay? It's just not going to be as bright and as loud, okay? So with the Lift 9, it is a refined warm. It's the best bleach that I've ever worked with. And I have a lot of clients who sometimes I don't even do a toner. I do just naked highlights because it lifts so beautifully, okay? And there's also bamboo carbon extract in the lightener. So it's got the anti-yellow, okay? It's got ingredients in there to help maintain integrity and keep the hair looking and feeling soft and healthy. Our developers have Caraveg 18. If you are familiar with megix, then you know Caraveg 18. But if you're not familiar with it, it's basically a plant-based protein keratin treatment. It's for the hair. So there are amino acids, wheat protein, soy protein, to help in maintaining the integrity of the hair. So that's in the developers as you're lightening the hair. So everything that Moan does is revolutionary in technology, but also being very, very mindful of keeping the integrity of the hair that we're working on, because we're not about, you know, damaging high alkalinity. That's not Moan. It's very, very gentle on the hair. And so Lift 9 is incredible for that. So if you have a client that you want to get lighter, Lift 9 is going to be your option. Okay, so with that said, I want to share a few foiling placements and purpose. I don't know, are there any questions that we can take, Maurizio, before we go into techniques?
No, not at the moment. Just one. They are asking about 2+1 volume to color. I suppose she refers to the mixing ratio of ultra blondes.
Yes, 2 to 1. So double 40 to 1 part color. So say you do 20 grams of color, you're going to do 40 grams of developer for a total of 60 grams.
Yes, so it means also 40 volume, it is 12%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, so I wanted to do a very simple foiling placements and purpose, because so I spend a lot of time on Facebook forums and social media, and I see what people are asking for, and there's always questions on a foiling pattern, for example. Like, how do I, you know, what pattern is the best for what? And I think before we can get into the pattern of foiling, we have to understand what each type of foil, whether it's horizontal, vertical, diagonal, forward, what they produce. And once you understand what they produce, then you can tailor your placement for your client depending on what they're wanting. So I see a lot of stylists just wanting a one-size-fits-all foiling placement, like we learned in beauty school. Remember, mohawk and then, you know, and that's just not going to work for what clients are asking for today. Oops. So we will go in first to diagonal forward and diagonal back, okay? So obviously this is diagonal forward. What this diagonal sectioning creates is going to be high contrast with diffusion, okay? So you're going to be able to see the difference between highlights and depth, but the line or the point of where that is starting is very soft versus vertical, okay? So in my opinion, doing a diagonal forward or a diagonal back section, and for this purpose, you guys, I just did straight slices just so we can see what happens when we move the hair. So you guys can see in the diagonal back, it's just very soft and very diffuse. So if you want more pop in the front, then you're gonna wanna do, sorry, my screen is stuck, where is it? Okay, so if you're gonna want a little bit more pop in the front, then you would do diagonal forward, because then your diffusion is up here and the pop is gonna be this way. If you want more pop coming this way, you can do diagonal back. So it's all about how you place the foil and where you place it on the head. Because if we go into horizontal, okay, so horizontal, it's good for general highlighting. It's just basically you are going parallel to the floor. So wherever you're placing it is parallel to the floor that you're working on. Okay, you will have high diffusion. So horizontal, when combed down, as you can see in the first picture, super blended, no chunky, no nothing. Okay, but when, depending on where you put it on the head, you'll see in the second picture, it can look a little bit more chunky. So typically you're going to use a horizontal for your general highlighting. You can use horizontal on the flat parts of the head. And then you can use a diagonal placement for the round parts of the head. This is just to get you guys to start thinking of what does each placement do? What look does it create? And then you can kind of design the full picture for your client, okay? Horizontal will give you overall brightness. So you can do, as you can see in this picture, you guys, these are slices, but it looks like weave. Okay, so when you take fine slices, it can give you a lot of brightness and a lot of pop. And then the last type of foil is going to be vertical. So this was done on the back half of her head, going in vertical sections. There's a lot of people who don't like to use vertical placement for highlights. Here's the thing, I'm a fan, and not necessarily for it to be chunky like this, but I'm a fan because if you have a client that has a lot of layers, okay, you want to take a vertical foil, a vertical or slightly diagonal, because if you go horizontal and they have a lot of layers, their layers are going to look like piano keys. And I know you guys have seen this before, where the color just doesn't flow well. So you're going to use your the vertical. It will create a high contrast, but it can also make hair appear longer because visually you're seeing it from the root all the way down, okay? But this is the best for highly layered hair. So if you have clients who have shags or lots of layers from the occipital down, you guys do vertical. It just makes the flow a lot better, in my opinion, okay? Let me see here. Okay, so again, back to just all my opinion, but diagonal is usually the best way to go. You're getting the best of both worlds. It's in between horizontal and vertical. Depends on how your client wears their hair, but in my opinion, will give you the most diffused look, which is the diagonal back and the diagonal forward. So I'm gonna go back to those. Diagonal back and diagonal forward. Let's see here. Okay, so that was just a little info for you. One of the biggest things that's very, very important to me, just as an educator, is to get people to just stop and think, right? Like get us to just stop and think about what we're doing, because so many of us work on autopilot, and it's just like, okay. Huh?
Sorry, they're asking if you can show the diagonal back again.
Yes. There we go. So diagonal back is going towards the back of the head. Diagonal forward is going towards the front. Okay. Again, for me, it's important I don't do one size fits all hair color formulation placement. I don't have a favorite formula or a favorite placement. I encourage stylists to just stop and think about, what are we trying to create? What is the canvas that we're working on? What is a formula that's going to be best? What is the placement that's going to be best? And for me, when you understand the whys behind, for example, the foiling, you understand why you would choose diagonal, why you would choose horizontal. It makes it more crafted and tailored for your client. And it gives you as a stylist an opportunity to just actually think about what you're doing instead of just working on autopilot. So I hope that was helpful. And then I also want to share a look that I created with Pure Shades. This is basically the last of what we're doing during this webinar. And this is part of using some of our formulas for this favorite formulas for the Summer Lightness collection. So the formulas that were used, and just so you guys know, I put this in a little ebook, so you guys will get this email to you as well. But I thought it looks really pretty, and I love using this placement in all kinds of different scenarios, but this is just a basic, a very simple placement. It looks a little bit more complicated, but it's very simple. So what I used was tourmaline and obsidian is formula number 1. And then I used rose quartz and clear for that pinky color. And then the rest of it was tourmaline and gray pearl. So here is the sectioning, you guys. It's super simple, but I love it. The first thing I did, this was a mannequin. I lifted her to a level 9, and I used lift 9 with 21 volume. I pre-toned her roots and her mids using Megix 10, 101, and Fix. So 101 is an ash-based color. Now, some people ask me why I left some of the ends out like that, because I wanted some variety in how my direct dyes deposited. So I didn't fully tone from roots to ends, okay? But what happened when I washed the toner out, obviously some of the ash grabbed on and refined some of that yellow. But I pre-toned the roots and mids with 101 and Fix. And then I outlined a star pattern above the occipital. The important part of this, you guys, is you want to make sure that the one point of the star comes to where they part their hair, okay? That's why, if you can see, she looks like that she has that pink money piece. It's because that one piece, or that one point of the star, came in the very, very front, okay? So you'll take a star pattern, and I used just 3 formulas for this. So the first thing I did was use the first formula, which was the obsidian and tourmaline, and I shadow rooted. So in the very front section, I only shadowed down about 1/2 inch. And then in the back, I did up to 2 inches. Now, mind you, the star is on the top of the head. I haven't shadow rooted that yet. So 1/2 inch in the front, 2 inches from the ears back, okay? Then we go in with the rose quartz and clear color, and I kind of just diffused the line and blended that down, okay? Super simple, right? So then we cover the pink, and now we're working with the star. And on this part, I shadow rooted 1 inch down. So now you'll know there's a little bit of a diffusion. We did 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inches. So naturally, she's gonna look a little bit more diffused in the back. So 1 inch for the star pattern, and then I applied formula number 3 on mids and ends. Crazy, because it looks like it's going to be purple, and this is the result that we got from it. I love these 2 pictures because even for clients, if not just for stylists, even for clients, to show the difference between indirect sunlight or shade versus studio lighting. So in the sunlight outside, it looks almost white, and the pink is like a super subtle baby pink. And then in the studio, she looks more gray and a little bit darker. So you guys, I'm sure you know this, but when you're lightening hair, it's super, super, super important to temper our clients' expectations and let them know that different lighting will make the same hair look vastly different. And this is just a great example of it for me. Because I took some pictures of her outside and in my studio, and I was like, wow, it's a pretty big difference, but it's the same head of hair. So that is in a little ebook for you guys with the formulas and the pattern. Like I said, I've used this pattern in so many different ways using multiple colors, but this is just a very simple, easy to do pattern, and hopefully you guys can use it for your clients. I wanted to share, so this is part of our Summer Lightness whole campaign. I came up with some really cute, fun formulas using Megix 10. So you can get a copy of this if you would like, but I don't know about you guys, I'm super into the pinky and blushy corally blondes. I feel like that's a huge trend right now. And so there's different ways for you to achieve those colors in a level 10, level 9. And obviously you can get creative and create your own colors too, but we do have these favorite formulas for summer 2020 available for you guys. With that being said, there's also a build your own Try Me kit promo. So if you're already using megix, then you've probably already gotten this. But if you haven't used megix, this is an opportunity for you to try the product, give it a shot, let it change your world. You can choose your colors, choose your developers, and obviously you would contact your distributor for these deals and the pricing. I don't have that information. But there are kits for you guys to just try. So you don't have to buy the full line, like, you know. Okay, with that being said, I want to open it up to any other questions, any thoughts, anything maybe you're struggling with, something you like, something, you know, we can talk for a little bit if there are any questions.
So we have some questions. One is, do you also mix your highlights every 15 minutes?
Yes. So anytime I'm using bleach, I will remix every 15 to 20 minutes or 1 to 2 scoops at a time.
Okay, but I suppose that in this case, she refers about the ultra blondes.
If it's the ultra blondes, no. So the ultra lift blonde, if you're using the high lift, no, you don't have to remix. But when you're using a powder lightener with a developer trying to get maximum lift, then yes, I would remix.
Okay. Other question is, do you need a bond builder?
Do you need a bond builder? No. That's your choice. If you want to use one, you can. I don't think that there's any reactions. Maurizio, are there any reactions when you mix the lightener with?
Look, the reason why when we developed the Megix 1UP was because we wanted to create something to protect the scalp and the hair shaft during the bleaching process or the normal color process. But we realized that, I don't know if all the ball builders, but what we tried, we understood that they affected the bleaching power of the Lift 9. So the Lift 9 was using a ball binder was not able to achieve the normal result, but it was one level lower. This is because the bond builder usually affects the process, the bleaching process. This is also why, I don't know, what we experience here in Europe, many bond builder manufacturers say when you apply bond builder, also increase the volume of developer.
Yeah, they depending on which one we're talking about,
Yes.
you can. What Maurizio is saying is a very, very valid point, in that when you mix anything into your concoction, into your formula, it will alter your results. Okay, it's not like it's not gonna work. I'll tell you that. Like, it will still work, but if you're trying to get the product to work its best, you don't need it, because we have the 1UP spray.
Yes.
And you can spray the 1UP on the scalp. You can also spray it onto the hair shaft, and it's going to protect it. But what I've understood about hairdressers in my 18 years in this industry is that you're gonna do what you want to do. You're gonna do what you want to do. So just know that what could happen is you might not get as much lift. I know with some of the bond builders now, you don't have to lift. I think you don't have to use a higher developer, but it's completely up to you. It's not a no, but I would say try 1UP first before you start adding other manufacturers' things into the mix.
Okay. Then another question is, can you elaborate on fix just a basic bit?
Can I elaborate on Fix? I can. So Fix is a 6-volume developer, and essentially it is designed to help any of the colors in the Megix 10 line act like a demi-permanent. So by using a low volume developer, you're somewhat acidifying your formula and it creates it to be almost like a deposit only. So when you mix anything with fix, you're getting just deposit, very, very minimal lift unless you're using higher colors. So if you're using the ultra lifts, for example, you could get some shift, but fix was designed to turn the color into something like a demi-permanent, an alkaline demi-permanent.
Okay, last question, I suppose, is can you mix or process high lift blonde and lift 9 at the same time?
You don't want to mix it in the same bowl. But
I don't know, maybe this is the meaning of the question.
I wouldn't put it in the same bowl. If that's the question, I'm going to say no, because really there's no point. If you understand, and I don't know if that was your question, but if it is, the bleach will just completely disintegrate anything that would be in the high lift anyways. So I would say don't do that. But again, I've learned that hairdressers just want to do what we want to do and we're just interesting in that way. But you can, now if the question was asking, can you do lift 9 in a foil, for example, and then put ultra lift blonde as a root or vice versa, you can do that. Because bleach, you're not really timing and the high lift will not over process. So you can work with them together, just not in the same bowl. I think. I think that was.
No, I think you think correct. Okay, so we do not have any question more.
Any other questions? Now's your time, guys. Okay. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for your time. You will get an email link with a copy of this webinar with this information. You can also get, or to rewatch it, I should say, you will also get the technique with the formulas if you guys are interested in trying to do something like that. Also, if you have any other questions, obviously I am on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. You're more than welcome to reach out to me if you need some more help in elaborating anything, really, any of the information that we covered today. So,
okay.
Very cool.
Thank you so much to everyone. I wish you very good rest of the day.
Yep. Have a good day, guys. Thank you so much for joining.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.